Special thanks to my patrons for supporting my channel. Hey all, as a heads up, I'm working on my next big documentary, and that's taking a while. I've got over 100 sources I'm combing through, and I want to make sure that it's the best it can be. So I wanted to talk about something a little bit more casually. And I figured, with the 20th anniversary of Batman Begins coming up, it's as good a time as any to talk about, well, you can read the title down there. Do I really need to introduce the Dark Knight trilogy? They're only some of the most popular movies released in the past 20 years. And yes, they meant a lot to me as I was getting into film. What could I possibly add to the conversation? Well, again, you read the title. So let's cut the chit-chat and jump right into it. Batman Begins, a movie cursed to forever live in the shadow of its sequel. Now, don't get me wrong, I never disliked this movie, but in retrospect, it had to play second fiddle to one of the biggest pop culture events of the decade. And that's pretty much the consensus, isn't it? It's good, but it's not The Dark Knight. Well, let's see how it is on rewatch. Now, it's important to contextualize this movie. In 2005, superhero movies were not the regular box office juggernauts they are today. Fox's X-Men and Sam Raimi's Spider-Man movies had made the genre more popular, but they weren't the main events in cinemas yet. So when they decided to make these new Batman movies, they thought to themselves, who should we get? I don't know, maybe that British guy who made the movie you watch backwards. Yeah, I can't really talk about this trilogy without talking about its architect. Christopher Nolan built his reputation off of these movies and Inception in 2010, and I'm happy to say he's kept up that reputation, for the most part. And I'll give Batman Begins this, it's a movie that definitely has his fingerprints on it. In fact, I dare say it has the clearest hallmarks of his storytelling style. He likes telling stories that play with time, like Interstellar or Memento like I just mentioned. Oppenheimer intercuts memories of the past with the political tensions of the present. Dunkirk has 3 storylines that unfold over a week, a day, and an hour before meeting up at the very end of the film. And in Batman Begins, the first act consists of us finding Bruce Wayne in a Himalayan prison. There he's met by an agent of Ra's al Ghul, and he's invited to join the League of Shadows to give him direction and purpose to his life. In between scenes of his training and induction, we get snippets of Bruce's life leading up to this point. We see the relationship with his parents and his friend Rachel, the infamous night in Crime Alley, how he gets the idea to become Batman, and so on. The storytelling isn't exactly subtle. Someone will say, "Tell us, Mr. Wayne, what do you fear?" Smash cut to the bats. But you know what? It works. And I think it's a good way to get the legwork done quickly. Another aspect I like is how this movie portrays Bruce himself. Christian Bale may not be my favorite Batman, but he's my favorite Bruce Wayne. In fact, these films seem to prioritize that side of the character. In other Batman outings I've seen, Batman is the main character and Bruce Wayne is just one aspect of him. In the Dark Knight movies, Bruce Wayne is the main character and Batman is just an extension of himself. This might sound like a criticism, but for the most part, it actually works for what these movies aim to do. I like how human he's allowed to be. Bruce doesn't just start with the no-killing rule, he intends to kill the man who shot his parents and is seconds away from actually pulling it off. Later on, he gets chastised for the plan by Rachel, and he realizes just how much he became like the man who shattered his own life. He didn't immediately become a paragon, he went down the wrong path at first. It makes him feel more human. In the same vein, I love the way we get to see him truly begin as Batman. On his first outing, where he makes contact with Jim Gordon for the first time, he doesn't even have his cowl or any gear yet. He tries jumping off the roof and fumbles it.
The hell was that?
Just some nut.
But bit by bit, he gets better. Bit by bit, he gets his equipment together, and I love the build-up here. On his first time out, we see it from the point of view of the goons, slowly taking them out one by one. Wait, what was that? Holy shit, something's over there. Oh my god, what is that? What's happening? And then, for the first time...
What the hell are you?
I'm Batman.
God, that's so satisfying. That's the name of the game here. Nothing I've said is exactly groundbreaking cinema, but it's told in a way that feels very satisfying. I think rewatching this now, after a half-decade of quantum manias and the flashes, Batman Begins feels more concrete, more tactile. It may be another superhero origin story, but it's really good at being that. But that said, there's some things in this movie that I wish it was better at. For the most part, I like the way that Batman Begins brings a comic book world into the real world, but Gotham just feels too normal. It just feels like Chicago, because it literally is Chicago. I really feel this after Matt Reeves' new Batman movie. That's also a more grounded version of the universe, but he's still able to add a lot of character to Gotham City while keeping it realistic. It almost feels like an entire haunted city. A running theme we're told in Batman Begins is that Gotham is suffering, people are being left behind, and the city is rotting from corruption. But we don't really feel it. It just feels like a normal city. Also, when I say this movie's not subtle, I really mean it. Christopher Nolan said that each movie in this trilogy is built around a one-word motif. Gee, I wonder what the motif of Batman Begins is.
What you really fear is inside yourself. You fear your own power. You fear your anger.
All creatures feel fear.
Now that's power you can't buy. That's the power of fear.
To conquer fear, you must become fear. You must bask in the fear of other men.
This is a world you never understand, and you always fear what you don't understand.
Time to spread the word. And the word is
Go ahead, say it.
panic.
Close enough. I mean, it's not exactly a bad thing, though. I actually like the idea that Bruce Wayne co-opts his fear of bats and channels it into his new persona. The motif plays well into the villain's ultimate plan, slipping Scarecrow's fear toxin into the water supply and then blasting everyone with it at once. Though, wouldn't anybody have had some boiled pasta or even a steamy shower in that time period? Then the jig would have been up. And this isn't a real point, but what is up with the music tracks here? Not the music itself, I actually really love a lot of the score across the whole trilogy. Hans Zimmer and James Newton Howard put together a great score. But why did they have to title the soundtrack like this? I get it, they're different genuses, genera? They're different types of bats. But when I'm talking about movie soundtracks I can name the Imperial March of Star Wars, or the Shire motif of Lord of the Rings. What am I supposed to say here? Oh, I feel such a nostalgic swell when Bruce is trekking across the glacier and Vespertilio starts playing. I really like how the trilogy uses the pensive, emotional motifs of Barbastella. Oh yeah, they really nailed the action motif in Molossus. Okay, Molossus is actually pretty sick. We can keep that one. Also, Rachel, Bruce's love interest, could have been a little bit stronger. Katie Holmes does manage to capture a very endearing, bright-eyed energy, and I wouldn't say she's a bad character. She's an idealist trying to fix the city from the inside. She's able to stand on her own 2 feet. And I like that she actually stands her ground against some hardened criminals at the climax of the movie. Plus, I love how this thing she says to Bruce is used as a way for him to discreetly reveal his identity to her.
It's not who you are underneath.
But what I do that defines me.
Bruce?
Wait, what was I complaining about again? This actually isn't bad either. It's corny, sure, but I'll take it. Man, there really is not a whole lot here for me to complain about, is there? There's this really weird sound effect when Bruce gets punched by Falcone's henchman. But I don't know, that's about it. Okay, this is a relatively small thing, but I like that Bruce meets Jim Gordon when he's little, right after his parents were shot, and Gordon takes a moment to comfort him. It's brief, but I think it's really sweet, and it effectively sets up why Bruce is quick to trust him later in the film. Something else I like about this movie is how funny it is.
Where are you?
Here.
That's not something you would normally associate with Christopher Nolan or even this trilogy. And to be sure, it's not like a comedy. You look at something like Guardians of the Galaxy, that is clearly trying to be a comedy, and that works for it. Here, the humor comes more naturally from the juxtaposition of the outlandish Batman stuff going on in the real world around it.
But I may need your help.
What do you need?
Can you drive stick?
And it's delivered real snappily too. Seeing the police react to Batman is a lot of fun.
At least tell me what it looks like. Never mind.
It toes that line without crossing into saying, oh, wow, guys, this Batman thing's really ridiculous, huh? And I think that's what I love about this movie. It manages to make Batman feel realistic while still letting him be Batman. When he has his first successful night out, we root for him. When he faces a true supervillain for the first time, he gets his ass handed to him and needs to be rescued, but rebounds and gets better. And I know that a lot of people want Batman to be some invincible badass, but honestly, I like a Batman that is allowed to be vulnerable. A Batman that makes mistakes, that's still trying to get this figured out, while still having his badass moments.
I never said thank you.
And you'll never have to.
Batman is so cool, guys. Yeah, I actually surprisingly liked Batman Begins a lot more than I remembered. It's gonna be real tough to top this one. 2008's The Dark Knight. Batman and Jim Gordon find a new ally in recently elected District Attorney Harvey Dent, and they soon stand on the verge of breaking organized crime in Gotham once and for all. That's when the desperate mob turns to the Joker and... Oh, who am I kidding? This movie doesn't need an introduction. It's The Dark Knight, for God's sake. This was everywhere when it came out. It was a pop culture juggernaut. A movie crossing $1 billion doesn't seem like a big deal nowadays. The Minions managed to do it. But it was the 4th highest grossing movie of all time at one point. And let me tell you, I got in on the craze. I was obsessed with this movie. I would rewatch scenes over and over, feel out their beats, look at how the shots are put together, scroll through each scene to see how it was edited. But the thing is, when you pick apart a movie this much, you kind of stop seeing it like a movie. It becomes more a series of sound bites and familiar images rather than a single narrative. And when that happens, you start to notice things. So the Joker tries to assassinate the mayor. Gordon dives in front of him in a shot, and everyone is led to believe he's dead. Batman then informs Harvey Dent he's going to turn himself in to stop the Joker. But right before he does, Harvey Dent announces that he is the Batman instead without Bruce being privy to it. All of this pays off in the big chase through Gotham, where Batman and Gordon work together to catch the Joker when he ambushes Harvey's transport. But when would they have had the time to plan this out? Harvey makes it clear he's making a huge gamble on Batman doing the right thing, but did Gordon also just gamble that this would all be going on? Afterwards, when the Joker is captured, his goons in conjunction with the corrupt police kidnap Harvey and Rachel, forcing Batman and Gordon to choose one or the other. But was this also part of the plan from the beginning? Did they have these warehouses rigged to blow just in case? When did the Joker plant the bombs in the hospital? When did he plant the bombs in the ferries? At the end of the movie, after Harvey Dent has gone on a revenge-fueled murder spree, Batman suggests covering up his crimes. Gordon responds,
5 dead. 2 of them cops. You can't speak that.
But who are the 5 dead? There's Wirtz, this guy here, we know he's a cop. There is Maroni and his driver here. And then another one of Maroni's men that you can see Dent's taking out right here, which is admittedly a fun kind of foreshadowing for the sharp-eyed viewer. But that brings our total to 4. Ramirez doesn't count because Dent didn't kill her. I tried looking on Reddit, and the consensus seems to be that the 5th kill, and the 2nd cop, is Dent's guard in the hospital, who is actually killed by the Joker, but Gordon believes it's Dent's doing, which actually raises the issue of how Gordon would even know about these murders in the first place. Wasn't he a little preoccupied with evacuating the city and the hostage situation? I think you get the picture. And I think that leads us to an interesting point about how storytelling works. Over the past decade and a half, there's a school of thought that a movie can be judged by tallying up how many mistakes it has made. It's sins of cinema, if you will. But I don't subscribe to that idea. What? Am I going to pretend that The Dark Knight isn't cool as hell? Am I going to pretend that it doesn't talk about really compelling themes or have a beautifully unique, bittersweet ending? It goes to show that a story's not built on having everything very intricately put into place. It's about the spirit of the thing. People will overlook a lot if the story is strong enough. And The Dark Knight is very strong. Let me get some goodwill back and talk more about the things I do admire in this movie. I mentioned this briefly when talking about Batman Begins, but these movies are generally really good at mixing the grounded approach with the larger-than-life elements that you kind of need in a superhero story. Batman as a character lends himself to that already. He's a rich guy who trained with ninjas and uses gadgets. Any billionaire could theoretically become Batman in real life. They're just too busy making whatever this is. Or doing whatever this is. I think the previous movie did that well with Scarecrow, reeling him back a little bit, but still giving him some time to be theatrical. Ra's al Ghul had a big change. In the comics, he has a thing called a Lazarus pit that can literally resurrect him, whereas in the movie, he just uses fake names and body doubles. As for Zsasz, he's just a dude that kills people, straightforward and simple. But I think The Dark Knight really nails that balance. And I think the character that really nails the balance between showmanship and reality is, of course,
Harvey Dent, the man of the hour.
Everyone talks about the Joker, how great Heath Ledger's Joker is. And they're right. But Aaron Eckhart as Harvey honestly pulls off the impossible. I'm impressed with how closely they were able to adhere to his character while keeping him realistic. This movie has to take Harvey Dent from hero to villain in a convincing way, and it does that by establishing each of his villainous qualities as something heroic about him. In The Dark Knight, Dent is elected as district attorney on the promise of finally cleaning up the city, and he actually means business. That's obviously great, but it also means he's antagonistic towards Gordon and the police department, because he doesn't know if he can trust them. During a trial of one of Falcone's men, a witness suddenly brings out a gun in court.
Get him out of here.
But Your Honor, I'm not done.
And it's a great moment that establishes that Dent's first instinct isn't to duck for cover. He fights back. He punches a witness on the stand. And that actually ties into a small detail I think is notable.
Fancy stuff for a city cop. Have help?
We liaise with various agencies.
Save it, Gordon. I want to meet him.
He's the one who makes the first move to say, I want to meet the Batman and work with him. He's willing to overstep boundaries for what he thinks is the greater good. Now in the courtroom, he clearly acts in self-defense. But how about later on, when he threatens one of the Joker's henchmen?
Heads, you gotta keep your head. Tails, not so lucky.
Again, we find out it's a double-headed coin, so this is a bluff, but it's still clearly crossing the line, and Batman's words are still true.
If anyone saw this, everything would be undone. All the criminals you pulled off the streets would be released, and Jim Gordon will have died for nothing.
Harvey Dent is passionate. It's what drove him to become, as Gordon says, Gotham's White Knight. But that passion proves to be his downfall as well. It's what the Joker uses against him. Dent was already distrustful of Gordon and the police department, so it's relatively easy for him to shift the blame to them. And from there, like the Joker says,
All it takes is a little push.
It's honestly miraculous that Dent's transition from this to this
Tell your boy's gonna be alright, Gordon. Lie. Like I lied.
is so compelling. Also, I have to say this, the effect they use for Dent's face is spectacular. This is exactly the kind of thing that I'm glad they used computer imaging for. Apparently they explored having it be a makeup effect, but no matter what they did, his face became bulkier, whereas they wanted a more subtractive effect. And the result works so well. It honestly holds up almost 20 years later. Jesus Christ, it's been almost 20 years since this movie came out. Now, I've seen some people accuse this movie of being boring until the Joker shows up, but honestly, I disagree. I like the idea of Batman being used to take down white-collar crime through a combination of Bruce Wayne facing subterfuge and his ability to bend the rules.
We need Lau back. But the Chinese won't extradite a national under any circumstances.
If I get him to you, can you get him to talk?
I'll get him to sing.
Like I said, the Dark Knight trilogy being more grounded means that it can actually address the idea that Batman is such an unusual idea. And rather than it being used for a joke, it's instead one of the main themes of the movie. Because Harvey Dent isn't the only person here who's towing the ethical line.
I knew the mob wouldn't go down without a fight, but this is different. They've crossed the line.
You cross the line first, sir.
People are dressing up as him to try to fight criminals themselves with far less finesse. In Batman Begins, Bruce explicitly states that he wants Batman to be a symbol, to be something that can inspire people to do good and warn away evildoers. In The Dark Knight, he now has to grapple with his symbol taking on new meanings that he didn't intend. His actions have caused the mob to escalate, and now, the best hope he has to stop the Joker is to escalate even further.
With half the city feeding you sonar, you can image all of Gotham. This is wrong.
Again, for some context, when this movie came out in 2008, the War on Terror had very solidly left the courtesy of the red, white, and blue phase and entered the, oh my god, what have we done phase. And domestically, the American public was still coming to terms with the Patriot Act, which authorized surveillance and the security state we see to this day. It's pretty clear that The Dark Knight is calling out the rising practice of surveillance that was happening in the real world at the time.
But consider this my resignation. As long as this machine is at Wayne Enterprises, I won't be.
And yet, there's a caveat to that. Because within the logic of the story, Batman only finds the Joker because of the surveillance system. I think it illustrates what's so seductive about the idea of surveillance. It can work. The movie doesn't really have a resolution to this theme. And I like that because at that time, we didn't really have an answer to what this approach was going to cost us. And at the end of the movie, Batman chooses to take the fall for Harvey Dent's crimes in order for the case he was prosecuting to stand, so that people could continue to have hope. And I love this combination of shots in the movie.
Look at this face. This is the face of Gotham's bright future.
Gotham needs its true hero.
He is turning Gotham's future bright again. Scouring this movie is how I learned to connect symbols together in cinematic language. I can't deny how much of an impact this had on me. Batman knows he exists outside the law, so by letting Dent's crimes be pinned on him, people can still believe that the institutions of the city are good. He's trying to save the soul of Gotham itself. And speaking of, that's something else I really appreciate about this movie. I like when superhero movies show the citizens as active participants in the story. I think this is one of the best ways to ground the story. Show how these events are affecting normal people, and show how they're reacting to them. We can see people at Harvey Dent's press conference.
Do we really think that he's gonna
protect an outlaw vigilante than the lives of citizens?
No more dead cops!
hurt himself big?
We can see people taking up arms trying to kill Coleman Reese after the Joker puts a bounty on his head. Gotham feels like a character in itself. And this culminates in the Joker's final game. He holds two fairies hostage and gives them a dark prisoner's dilemma. If they blow up the other boat in the harbor, they'll live, but if they refuse, both die. And eventually, as the deadline draws close, we see a representative on each boat stand up, demand their respective detonator, but the hulking, scary-looking criminal is the one who, without hesitation, tosses the detonator out the window. And on the other boat, the music feels like it's on a knife's edge. For a few breathless moments, you legitimately don't know what he's going to choose. We didn't know this man existed 5 minutes ago, and yet we hang on to what his decision is going to be. Because that decision will tell us if Gotham's heart is still good. Against all logic, the people of Gotham on these boats refuse to kill each other to save themselves. It's a powerful refutation of the Joker and what he stands for. And you know what? I've danced around this guy enough. Yeah, what do you want me to say? Oh, hot take, Heath Ledger as the Joker is amazing. Yeah, you already know that. And the praise is warranted. In 2008, there was a ton of hype, but even all these years later, the Joker really works as an antagonistic presence. The one thing I can add to the praise of this performance is an anecdote. When I was in high school during one of those end of the school year days when the curriculum's done and the teacher just needs stuff for students to do, I managed to convince our teacher to put on The Dark Knight. And you can imagine this setting. It's movie day. Lots of students lounging about and not paying attention and chatting. But when this scene came on,
you wanna know how I got these scars?
Not a goddamn peep in the room. Really, he's not even a character. He's just a force of nature. That's a reason why the story shortcuts I mentioned earlier don't really bother me that much. It's easier to accept plot magic when it's used to create problems for our heroes rather than to solve them. Again, how did the Joker load up the fairies with bombs? Who cares? It allowed for this incredible scene to happen. Theatricality and deception are powerful agents after all. I don't think this movie is as flawless as people say, but there's a reason why every moderately successful superhero movie is hailed as the best since The Dark Knight. And all Nolan had to do was complete his iconic trilogy. Oh yeah, here it is. The hype train for this movie was the wildest hype train I've ever been on. I watched every trailer, every TV spot I could get my hands on the moment it came out. I got tickets a month ahead of time. I have anticipated no movie more intently since then. And then the day of release arrived and it was good. Yeah, it was good. The movie was good. It totally lived up to the previous two movies. It wasn't a letdown at all. The trilogy is perfect just the way it is. I'm not coping. You're the one who's coping. It totally deserves to be the 71st best movie of all time on the Internet Movie Database. Yeah, so maybe The Dark Knight Rises isn't as good as its predecessors. And maybe I need to unpack this honestly for myself. So it's been 8 years since the events of The Dark Knight. Batman hung up his cowl, Harvey Dent has been rendered a martyr, and in his name, tough new laws have made organized crime a thing of the past. But there's a whiff of rot, a rumbling of things not being as well as they appear beneath the surface. And in that shadow lurks the specter of Bane. Now to be clear, I wouldn't say it's a bad movie. We're nowhere near the horrendous trilogy enders of The Rise of Skywalker or Blade Trinity. So here's some good things about this movie. The acting from the legacy characters is strong across all three films. I talked about Christian Bale's portrayal of Batman and Bruce Wayne already, but a lot of the casting here is on point. Gary Oldman portrays Jim Gordon as someone who's good and competent, but still in over his head when it comes to the Batman shenanigans. Morgan Freeman as Lucius Fox is a relatively small role, but he's so much fun, and he adds an appropriate levity at key points.
These conversations used to end with an unusual request.
I'm retired.
Well, let me show you some stuff anyway, just for old time's sake.
Michael Caine as Alfred is inspired. When I think of Alfred, I think of his performance in this trilogy. By the time Bruce reaches this last movie, Alfred is the last remnant he has of his life with his parents. And I like the relationship that's built between them over the course of the movies. Alfred shares wisdom with Bruce. He saves him from death. He saves him from heartbreak. And it helps to sell the strain between them in this movie. One thing in this film that I actually really want to point out, and really across the whole trilogy, bear with me as I get mad at people on the internet for a moment. You get all these people who are like, oh, Batman's a bad guy actually. He's a fascist billionaire who beats up mentally ill people in his spare time. He should use his money for good. Yeah, you're right. Maybe he should divest his company from harmful industries.
I don't think that Thomas Wayne would have viewed heavy arms manufacture as a suitable cornerstone for our business.
Maybe he should use his networking connections to support reformer candidates in politics. Maybe he should fund charities to help at-risk youth through the city and discourage them from resorting to a life of crime. Maybe he should use his wealth and resources to develop green energy. Nobody gets to slander Batman this way except Vera Drew. Okay, I promise I'm done. On a real level, though, I do like that this aspect of Batman is addressed, his ability to do good as Bruce Wayne. But this leads me into one of my major issues with this movie. I've praised the previous two for adeptly mixing the more fantastical or outlandish aspects of Batman with the real world. But The Dark Knight Rises feels a little too normal, and the problem starts with Bane. Tom Hardy as Bane isn't a toothless threat. He's intimidating enough, but he doesn't have the pizzazz. It's not for lack of trying. After he breaks Batman's back and drags him to the prison pit, I really like this monologue he gives.
And then, when it is done, and Gotham is ashes, then you have my permission to die.
The man blows up a football stadium and gives a big epic speech on top of a tank. There's clearly an attempt being made, but it just doesn't hit the same. The showmanship isn't at the same level. Like, look at these two scenes. You can see the contrast. I just told you the arresting effect this had on a room full of unruly kids. It's close, intense. The music almost feels like flames smoldering higher and higher in the background.
Me watching, he takes the knife to her, laughing while he does it.
Bane gets a similar sequence, and it just doesn't have the same level of energy.
Your money and infrastructure have been important. Till now, I'm necessary evil.
Oh hey look, it's Dr. Gottlieb. That's cool, I guess. But yeah, I'd also contrast this scene with one later within the movie, which I think is much more effective. Bane has just revealed himself and his nuclear bomb to Gotham.
And who is capable of disarming such a device?
Only me.
Only you. Thank you, good doctor.
That's a great oh shit moment. When he and Batman square up and he does the iconic breaking of the bat, when he invades the stock exchange and slams this guy's head to the desk, I think I can see what the movie is going for. Whereas Ra's al Ghul was a more elegant villain who weaponized fear, and the Joker sparked and exploited chaos, Bane's keyword is pain. He uses blunt brutality as his most potent weapon, and when he utilizes it, it creates his most potent scenes. But that's the problem. When he utilizes it. Bane feels like he's held back in a lot of moments, and part of it is because this movie, at points, feels like it's already stretching a PG-13 rating. Like, holy shit, there's kids dressed as Batman seeing this opening day. I think for this character to hit its full potential, it needs an R rating. And I'm not one of those people that goes, oh, if it's not a gritty R-rated movie, then I don't want it. No, that's ridiculous. What I'm saying is that for this vision of the character that emphasizes brutal physical violence, with this tone being chosen for the movie, holding yourself to a PG-13 rating is going to hinder that. I present for your consideration the tribangle. From the tribangle, you can only choose two options. You can have Bane rely on physical brutality and keep it PG-13, but then you can't really give your movie a dark, gritty tone. And the same thing with any other combination on this list. I also think Bane suffers from being chained to the League of Shadows. Whether this is comic accurate, I don't know. But also I don't really care. As it is in the film, he represents a threat that we've already seen Batman defeat in this franchise. It's even acknowledged within the movie, and countered with the argument that Bane is even bigger and badder.
Take a look, his speed, his ferocity, his training. I see the power of belief. I see the League of Shadows resurgent.
But I don't know, it feels like on at least some level we're facing the same villains again. And it hinders Bane's development as a character knowing that he's not his own man. Scarecrow in Batman Begins was an unwitting pawn of Ra's al Ghul, but he still had his own thing going on. Bane just feels like an extension of Ra's al Ghul. But let's leave Bane for now, we've beat up on him enough. Let's start unpacking what the plot actually is. A common complaint about this movie is that it starts with Batman having been retired for years, and with Gotham having apparently just solved the eternal problem of crime. Personally, I don't mind these aspects as much. I'm willing to see how such ideas would develop, and the idea of a city having managed to supposedly solve crime could make for a really cool contrast with a theme that this movie attempts to have. See, The Dark Knight Rises has become the poster child for a particular kind of trope. A villain stands up and says, "Have you considered that society has a problem?" And you think, yeah, he's right, there really is a problem. And then the villain says, "That's what I thought, and now I will proceed to kill lots of people, so I'm still the bad guy." Admittedly, his reputation's not undeserved. There's hints throughout the story that despite the supposed victory over crime, things in Gotham are really hard for people.
We don't have the resources to keep boys on after 16.
Yeah, but I thought the Wayne Foundation gave money for them.
Not for the past couple of years.
Bruce's attempt to fix everything with his wealth has depleted his resources. An aborted attempt at nuclear fusion has left Wayne Enterprises unable to fund youth programs and foster homes around Gotham. That, in turn, fuels desperation.
You know what he was doing down there in the tunnels?
A lot of guys been going down in tunnels when they age out. Say you can live down there. Just say there's work down there.
Catwoman also pays lip service to this as her rationality for her thievery. She takes from the rich, and she has these haunting words for Bruce.
There's a storm coming, Mr. Wayne. You and your friends better batten down the hatches, because when it hits, you're all gonna wonder how you ever thought you could live so large and leave so little for the rest of us.
This sentiment is what Bane then appeals to.
The powerful will be ripped from their decadent nests.
Now, it's worth noting that when this movie came out, Occupy Wall Street had occurred just a year before. Did Christopher Nolan write this movie as a rebuke of the movement? I don't think so. That timeline does not work out. Could he have been influenced by the lingering resentment of the 2008 Great Recession and anti-austerity backlash that Occupy Wall Street grew out of? Possibly. But I'm not going to speculate about Nolan's specific political opinions here. All that matters to me is how this theme actually unfolds in the text of the movie. And to be frank, it's messy. And that's being generous. Because there's not really a resolution to this theme, because Bane isn't truly defeated. Ra's al Ghul believed that Gotham was too far gone for redemption, that destroying it and killing everyone inside was the righteous course of action. But Batman found enough good people to help him take down the conspiracy. The Joker believed that people were amoral monsters that would turn on each other the moment they got their chance. He was proven incorrect by the people on the ferries. The only thing Bane is proven incorrect about is that Batman is able to recover his strength and figure out how to escape the pit. And then he gets outpunched in the middle of Gotham surrounded by the world's largest street brawl. Because that's all that needs to happen, because his revolution is fake, because he set the bomb to kill everyone anyways. The last we hear of this theme is...
What's that?
This was someone's home.
Now it's everyone's home. There's a storm coming, remember? This is what you wanted.
It's just completely dropped. I'm not saying that I needed this movie to end with a rallying call for class solidarity or anything, but it chose to introduce these concepts and then didn't pay them off in a satisfying way. And that's disappointing no matter how you slice it. On a related note, The Dark Knight Rises feels much less interested in the people of Gotham than its predecessor, which is wild because with these themes, they should be more of a focus of the story. I'll tell you the biggest missed opportunity here. In what should be Bane's most devastating blow, he reveals the true nature of Harvey Dent on live television. A lie 8 years in the shadows, the victory that Batman sacrificed everything to snatch from the Joker's grasp, it's all undone. And it barely registers as a plot point. The most reaction we get is Blake here, who's kind of upset at Gordon for lying, and then it's never brought up again. They might as well have been getting into a disagreement over who ate the last donut in the box.
Your hands look plenty filthy to me, Commissioner.
Also, while we're here, I don't really like Blake as a character. Coleman Reese found out Bruce Wayne was Batman because he was an auditor who managed to get hold of some obscure, overlooked archives. Detective Blake figured it out because Bruce had a certain look on his face.
Right when I saw you, I knew who you really were. I'd seen that look on your face before. Same one I taught myself.
And hell no, he's just too normal. Like, there's a sequence where he's found out that this businessman is working with Bane, and he owns a construction company, so the police commissioner tells him to drive around town looking at the construction sites for anything suspicious. And then he recognizes a cement truck driver who was sitting outside the stock exchange when Bane took it over. And then they grapple, and Blake shoots them, and I'm watching this, and then I remember, oh yeah, this is supposed to be a Batman movie. But back to my previous point, the people of Gotham should be far more prominent here, like they were in The Dark Knight. We should see more of nameless, everyday people navigating Bane's supposed revolution. Give us a chance to see how Bane's brutality disillusions even the people who stood to benefit from it. And after all the talk across the trilogy of Batman being a symbol, including within this movie...
So you know about him?
Of course. Do you think he's coming back?
Imagine if after Batman returns and sets this big bat signal, instead of just the Gotham Police Department siding with him against Bane, it was everybody. The people of Gotham rallying behind the symbol of Batman. It would have given the film a lot more flavor. And I think that's the fatal flaw of this movie. It's just not as flavorful as its predecessors. A lot of people have pointed out that the plot has too many moving parts, and the timing of things doesn't really make sense. Like at the end, when Batman flies a nuclear bomb out over the water. Yeah, there's no way he made that distance. That's ridiculous. But a lot of people would overlook these issues if the story was more interesting and engaging. And I say that on good authority because people did overlook these issues with The Dark Knight. Because that story is electrifying. And you wouldn't ruin a good story with nitpicks, would you? Here, what are we at risk of losing out on with our nitpicks? A convoluted plot of finding out that most of what we learn about Bane through the movie isn't real and actually applies to Miranda, who's actually Talia al Ghul, the secret daughter of Ra's al Ghul. And the movie tries to pretend it's pulled this clever twist because Bane had said earlier,
"This bomb is armed, this bomb is mobile, and the identity of the triggerman is a mystery."
And I thought it was just another lie because yeah, he's primed the bomb to detonate anyways. But then Talia goes,
"And though I'm not ordinary, I'm a citizen."
It feels like it's trying to be clever, but I'm just here like, oh. Okay. Also, this reveal means that Bane is further sidelined, becoming even more enthralled to the character of Ra's al Ghul, and then he dies in such an anticlimactic way.
You'll just have to imagine the fire.
Oh yeah, Catwoman's in this movie, I forgot. She's fine. Anne Hathaway does alright with what she's got. Anyways, Batman has to chase down the bomb and... Okay, I have to complain about this. The trilogy translated Batman's no-killing rule into a no-guns rule. And that's not to say he's dropping people through other means, but he kills Ra's al Ghul through inaction.
I won't kill you, but I don't have to save you.
Man, this movie's cool. In The Dark Knight, he more actively killed Harvey Dent by tackling him off a ledge. But, you know, Harvey Dent had shot him, and he was about to execute a child, and Batman severely hurts himself doing this. And also the action is so drastic that he hangs up his cape for 8 years. I can stomach this. I can live with it. What I can't live with is Batman using his giant bat copter to open fire on a truck.
You gotta be kidding me.
No guns, no killing.
Where's the fun in that?
No guns, but giant cannons are just fine. Do you want to be a Batman movie or not? At this point, it probably sounds like I hate this movie. But there's a lot of stuff here that I like in concept, and even a lot of stuff I like in execution. Bane doesn't just break Batman physically. His hit at the stock exchange deprives Bruce of his wealth and resources. That's a cool angle to take. Bruce realizing the way out of the pit is to let go of his lifeline is simple, clever, and that scene's really good. I like the visual parallel calling back to the well in Batman Begins. Great way to tie things together. And speaking of, I also like that Bruce refers back to the moment when Gordon comforted him as a child to subtly reveal his identity to him. I love that Scarecrow is the only villain to appear across every movie in the trilogy, and he's just owning his role as judge of this kangaroo court.
Sold! The man in the cold sweat.
I enjoy too much of The Dark Knight Rises to definitively call it a bad movie, but it is a weak one. It bites off more than it's willing or able to chew with its themes. It loses that balance of real-world and fantastical elements that helped the rest of the trilogy work. But you know what? I'll give it credit for one more thing. It's at least an ending. That's something I appreciate more and more over the years. As we get more legacy sequels, as the Marvel Cinematic Universe is not allowed to let anyone's story end, as Harrison Ford gets progressively grumpier with every outing, the Dark Knight trilogy actually concluded. And I like how it ended. Bruce faking his death to finally have a happy life, while the Batman gets to be a symbol that inspires people for years to come. The ending could have been earned better, but I'll take it. So there it is, some of the most influential superhero movies ever made, and a trilogy that meant everything to me. But you want to know something? Coming back to this rewatch, and going through all three movies again, I have a new favorite among them. Yeah, the obvious choice for years was The Dark Knight, and it's certainly ambitious and enthralling, but I'll be honest, I might actually like Batman Begins a little bit more. Again, not as ambitious, but there's something very comfortable about it. Sometimes I want to watch the intense crime thriller interrogating whether the ends justify the means, and sometimes I want to watch Batman be cool, and I am not ashamed to say that. I really liked the new Matt Reeves Batman. I'm looking forward to that continuation, but this trilogy, it'll always have a special place in my heart. Oh, and one last thing, the Batman voice never bothered me.
I'm not wearing hockey pads.
Okay, bye-bye.